Granted, the roasters seem to be getting smaller and smaller, but I think that's really awesome. So there's, a handful of local roasters. I love to drink all their coffees, and I'm really glad they all exist. I think it's a lot of fun to try other people's coffees. So from my point of view, there is a lot of room. I guess if your goal is world domination, there's already a lot of really big coffee companies out there, so you got to really bring something unique if you're going to take over. But it's neat that the coffee roasting world is slowly becoming more and more collaborative. Whereas before it was all super secretive. People didn't want to talk about how they roasted or share roast profiles or really get into the details of their personal beliefs on roasting theory. It was all like a hidden black box of this is our proprietary thing and we're not going to tell anybody about it. So I think it's really cool that that people are talking about it more openly. I think even if you're doing something that works really well, it's why not share that with other people and let them try to do that too. Really elevate all of the coffee if you really think what you're doing is the best way to do it. So I have a full-time job that I do normally, and that's really what pays our bills. We do this because we love doing it. So we started this 3 years and 2 days ago was our launch date. So we've done this in a really low capital expenditure way, right? We lease time on somebody else's roaster. We've actually been able to keep our expenses low enough that we can keep our purchases on zero interest introductory APR credit cards and pay them off and open a new one as needed. And so far, that has worked 100% for us. And we know that won't work forever, and that at some point we'll actually take out a business loan. But it's been really, really helpful for kind of getting our foot in the door. So I was a patron here for years before I ever even thought of starting a coffee company or trying to see if I could lease time on this particular roaster. So roasters are really, really expensive relative to what they make. So this is a small roaster. I roast 5 pounds at a time on it. A used roaster like this is like $15,000. Margins in coffee are pretty small, so it would really take a long time to pay that off. And it also requires a commercial space to operate it in. So having no roaster or space for the roaster, leasing really worked out well. Initially we thought maybe at some point we'd buy a roaster and operate it out of our house. The more I learn about all of this, the less likely I think that actually is, that we'll be able to get the right permitting for a bigger roaster on a residence. It's easy to get into home roasting though, right? Because you can do that on anything. I mean, you can really do it with a frying pan. You can get a $30 popcorn popper and use that. The home roaster I use for my sample roasting was about $400. So again, as a hobby, it's something you can really get into pretty easily. This computer makes its own graph, but there's no way that I'm aware of at least to get the data out of this graph. So every 30 seconds, I record the temperature, rate of change, total amount of time, and then lastly the final temperature all play a role.